Hello everyone. Today we will implement a Mule application where I'll try to answer one of the questions that's come up on my channel. So the user needs a way to read multiple images from a server or a file system, and she wants to send an email with those messages. She can just copy the file path for the images and add it into the email. That won't work for her because it has to be a URL. A file path will not give you access to the files. If you need a URL, you need to host those images on a web server that is publicly accessible through the internet. And in these ways, you can access the images without attaching the images to the email. It will keep the size of the email file low. If you don't have a web server and you still want to send images, then you need to embed those images or attach those images to the email. We'll see how to do that. From these comments, we get to see that the user is already able to read one file, one image, and send that through the email. She needs a way to repeat the same process, or let's say 3 to 5 times, without increasing the number of nodes or complexity of her code. So she needs a way to apply iterations or looping for each as shown on screen. In this picture, you'll see for each node of MuleSoft being used to read a file, then transform message of MuleSoft being used to aggregate the images that it has read. The input to this for each loop is a list of names, an array of names with the full file path and not just the relative path. So as I said earlier in one of my previous videos, I no longer work in IIB or ACE, and that's the reason I've implemented the solution in MuleSoft. Okay, let's go take a look at the code. We'll clear the previous console. Now this is the flow which reads the files one by one within a for loop, aggregates those images into one variable, and then sends the email. So here I've used a logger instead of an email output node just to show how the content of that email would look like. All right, let's see and understand each of the nodes and why they are needed. I have intentionally used this read file node because I wanted to show how you can aggregate these various images. You could also achieve the same thing with this node called as list files, which will give you all the list of images in a folder. What if all the images are not in the same folder, or you need to access those files one at a time for some reason? So only because of that consideration, I have ignored the files that are being output from this list files node. And even though this for each is not needed in this scenario, I've added that explicitly for a demo purpose. Okay, let's run the code. Okay, so here you see set variable where we initialize the images to an empty array. Next, we list the images from a particular folder where we want the names of the files. And after that, once you get the name of the files, you then go through the list one by one, read the file. And here in the aggregate node, you merge those file names and the file content, and you create an array of files. And after that, there's a choice condition which will check if there are any images present in the folder. If there are any, then you'll go through a transform message again, and there you will create your images where you will add the image names, all of the image names, and you will also add the embedded image content in base64 format. Okay, so this has been triggered. We see scheduler. Let's initialize the images variable. You have set the value to an empty array. And when we list the files from the folder, you get 3 files. So these are the image content. That is a binary value of those images. And the file names, let's view those file names one by one. So here is the first image, a PNG image, and the file name is this, and the file path is shown over here. Okay. Even though we have accessed the file, we have the content of the file, the name of the file, etc. I have added the read file node only for the sake of demonstration. Okay. So here it clearly says that we don't need the file read node, but it has been used just to show that it is possible to iterate over file names and fetch its content. Okay, so we again fetch the content of the file, set the file name. So the file name has been set. Images are 0. Now we aggregate the images, the ones that we have fetched. So here in images, you see one image being appended with the file name, CID, content ID, and the content in binary in base64 format. To use base64 function, you need this package. You have to import this binaries from DW core. Now we go on to the next image. We have read the next image and we have the next file name. Okay. It's different from the first image that we read, 153.506. Now we will append both the images. So in the array, you get to see 2 different content, 2 different images with 2 different names and base64 format. Now we'll repeat the same step for the third file and you get the result of the third file in images array. So 3 different files with the base64 content for each of them. Now we are inside the choice router and there we have created the HTML content by using the map function. Let's take a look at the payload. So we have the to address, the subject, HTML body, and the attachments. HTML body here shows HTML tags, body tag, a paragraph, and images. The source of the image is an embedded ID. So within the email, if you send this particular ID, you'll be able to get the show the content within the email. So here are the attachments. That is in base64 format with the content ID. Okay. Now we'll log the HTML body and we'll take a look at the console. You get to see the 3 images in HTML format. So what did we do now? We executed a scheduler. We fetched the images one by one. We aggregated the images and we created a HTML email body and we logged the payload. By clicking on this green button, you'll be able to schedule the or trigger the job again. So I'm going to click it once. It's triggered and you can see you can trigger these jobs at will, even though the scheduler has been set at 1 hour duration. This green button option will give you the ability to trigger at will. All right, that's it for today. See you on another video.